Today's tale is devoted to those who safeguard the peace of the citizens of the Dark Millennium, the Grey Knights. No one living within the Imperium can state with certainty that they possess reliable knowledge of the Grey Knights' origins. Even the chapter itself holds only a single, solitary written record of its founding, preserved within their fortress monastery, the Citadel of Titan. From this and other legendary sources known to very few, one can piece together a history of a terrible peril, an invaluable gift, and the concealment of soul-rending knowledge. It is said that it was in the final days of the Horus Heresy that the founders of the Grey Knights first gathered. Even as the Emperor, with his generals and advisors, prepared terror for the onslaught of his wayward son, the arch-traitor Horus, the Lord of Humanity pondered far graver threats. Some myths of that distant age hint that the Emperor alone foresaw the danger emanating from chaos and the denizens of the Immaterium, demons and their gods. All manner of emotions, given hideous embodiment in the warp, would not be content with the mere destruction of mankind, but sought its decomposition, enslavement, and eternal torment. According to ambiguous mentions, the Emperor's most trusted servant Malcador risked traversing the war-ruined Imperium while the heresy raged, sent by the Emperor to seek out those upon whose shoulders the burden of saving humanity's future should fall. It is believed that among those Malcador eventually presented to the Emperor were 8 space marines. Revuel Arvida, a sergeant of the Thousand Sons, later known as Ianius, for thus presented itself the entity woven from the body of the legionary and a shard of the Crimson King, subsequently became the first Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights. Severian of the Lunar Wolves became Iapto. Vardas Ison of the Blood Angels became Satre, and Tylos Rubio of the Ultramarines became Koios. An unnamed Dark Angels legionary became Epimetheus. He was most likely the Nemean. For reasons unknown, this legionary left his legion, took up the mantle of the Black Shield, and at the outset of the Horus Heresy founded the so-called Dark Brotherhood, consisting of various Black Shields. After some time, he was recruited by Malcador. An unnamed legionary of the Raven Guard became Ogun. He was probably Antaka Sivan or Balsar Kurthuri. Jotun was an unnamed Astartes of the Space Wolves Legion, likely Fyodor Stromgren. Stromgren was initially assigned to keep watch over Conrad Kurz shortly before the outbreak of the heresy. However, the Night Phantom slew all his packmates and mutilated Fyodor beyond recognition. The Primarch of the Night Lords sent the grievously wounded Astartes to Terra so that he might serve as a message to the Loyalists. However, the body of the Space Wolf was discovered by wandering knights and brought to Malcador, who demanded that Fyodor's life be saved by any means, save for interment within a dreadnought. Presumably, after his recovery, he joined Malcador's knights and later became one of the first Grey Knights. Chiron became an unnamed Astartes of the Night Lords, most likely Fel Jarost. Unrivaled in his devotion to the Imperium, cognizant of the threat of the warp, and possessed of potent psychic talents, each of the 8 was sanctioned, and the Emperor entrusted Malcador to commence the next stage. With the aid of his clone hybrid, Malcador dispatched a cadre of Space Marines to Titan, the cold moon of Saturn. Malcador concealed the Emperor's works on Titan from both traitor and loyalist eyes. According to one digital tapestry, Malcador's knights discovered upon Titan a fortress monastery created in desperate secrecy. Within that stronghold lay the genetic material for the founding of a chapter, yet not the seed of those legions still locked in mutual slaughter during the ruinous heresy. but a newly fashioned gene seed, wrought by the Emperor himself in the strictest secrecy. How long the plan had been in gestation, and how much time was required to locate suitable recruits, to forge specialized weapons and equipment, and so much more. Perhaps even Malcador himself did not know. What transpired thereafter eluded even the Grey Knights. When Terra itself was poised to oppose Horus's heretical legions, sorcerous magics of unprecedented might tore Titan from the clutches of reality. The moon was torn from its orbit and plunged into the warp. Time and bloodshed engulfed the Sol system, yet Titan endured, somehow anchored within the warp. Those who dwelt upon it, ignorant of the heresy's tragic culmination, laboured to realise the Emperor's gift to humanity, while Titan's mysterious energies strove to shield the world from the warp's seething embrace. Years passed in real space, and who can say how many within the warp before Titan reappeared? It returned at the most propitious moment, during the tumult and anarchy of the Second Founding. Rumour holds that the ever-expanding Inquisition had a hand in much of what was done to conceal the chapter from prying eyes. It was then that the Grey Knights first appear in the records of the Second Founding as the 666th chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. The warriors discovered by the Inquisitors, 1,000 strong, among them no neophytes, were prepared to enact the Emperor's design at once, aided by their allies within the Inquisition, who helped to keep their existence secret. The Grey Knights commenced their hidden war. Only they, as a fighting force, could stand against demons without fear of sullying their souls. And since the existence of such creatures, and the sorceries employed to banish them, must be forever concealed, all witnesses to the Grey Knights' activities were immediately obliterated by the Inquisition. Some say that when Malcador presented to the Emperor his chosen knights, the Space Marines, men and women of inquisitive disposition stood in the shadows behind them. The most careless among them even suppose that the Inquisition was born on that very day. And the Ordo Malleus is one of the principal arms of that terrible institution. The diverse agents of Malleus scour the traces of chaos, of demons, and of all that is tainted by the warp. Nothing and no one can hide from their unblinking gaze. To root out lone miners tainted by long-buried artifacts, mutant brothels within vast hive cities that weaken the barriers of the immaterium by their debauchery, and even demonic possession among those who occupy the highest echelons of power. An inquisitor of the Ordo Malleus, whose authority is, for all intents and purposes, boundless, will entertain no doubt before delivering a harsh sentence. Inquisitors of the Ordo Malleus are people of iron will, granted access to knowledge of chaos that would drive far weaker minds to madness. And although they marshal vast resources and call upon virtually any force they deem necessary, they cooperate most closely with the Grey Knights. For when Inquisitors uncover a vast demonic presence, it is often only the Brothers of Titan who can cast it out. These two organizations frequently exchange information, yet they watch one another warily, maintaining a complex and often tense relationship. Speaking of the Grey Knights, one cannot fail to mention their homeland, Titan. Titan's frozen landscape, composed of cryovolcanoes and oceans of liquid methane, is scarred by jagged outcrops of black rock. It is a grim and forbidden place where even elemental life is scarcely sustained. Such barrenness is but one of the veils of mystery that shroud its warriors. If a ship is permitted to approach Titan's surface, it must pass through all manner of barriers and security systems, and the sensors of any vessel that draws near the moon may detect some of them. For example, unusual craft circling in the dark. While those who wield arcane technologies or esoteric faculties may pride themselves on discovering further defensive mechanisms. Psychic force lattices that ensnare interspatial quarry, or ever-watchful stations where choirs of astropaths dwell, singing of the existence of other bastions of protection into the minds of men. The moon possesses a multitude of systems of deception, obfuscation, and destruction, perhaps far more than even those that gird terror, and even Titan's seemingly lifeless surface is itself one such defensive system. The citadel of Titan, thrusting from the ice sheet in the shadow of Mount Anarch, has endured since its founding in the Age of Legends. It is the fortress monastery of the Grey Knights, set among black basalt spires that house batteries of macro cannons and defensive lasers. Within Titan's inhospitable citadel, dusty corridors and cavernous halls are kept to silence, save for the whisper of mantles. And though these halls are scaled to contain an entire chapter, and all the arms and machines, castellans and servitors it requires, many armories for meditation and feasting halls stand empty for years, for distance is no barrier to the demonic threat, and to oppose it, the majority of the Grey Knights are scattered across the galaxy, fighting among the stars while their home silently awaits their triumphant return. Majestic walls and columns are etched with the battle honours of the Grey Knights, and in the Hall of Champions, great banners and trophies are hung. Deep within the fortress lie the Chambers of Purity, said to house the most sacred and perilous relics wrought by the Grey Knights. Yet the sons of Titan could not have won so many victories but for their prescience. Upon the highest black spire of the fortress monastery, there rises the Grey Knight's silver eye, the Augurium. Within the mirrored walls of its vaulted chambers, the prognosticars of the Grey Knights sift their reflected thoughts and disentangle from the warp the mutable threads of atemporal probabilities. Prognosticars are potent psychers who, amid candles and incense, read psychic impulses and fluctuations to discern the where and when of demon incursions. No knowledge connected to the warp is ever absolutely exact or safe, but because the prognosticars painstakingly detect falsehood, they can unerringly trace a demon's spore. By the visions and wisdom of the prognosticars, strike forces of the Grey Knights may be upon a scene before an incursion begins, rather than waiting for a planet's panicked astropathic pleadings and arriving all too often when it's already too late. The Grey Knights foresee and prepare for battle as no other forces of the Imperium do, knowing in advance the nature of the threat they face and perhaps the consequences of their failure. Another important locus within the citadel of Titan is the Sanctum Sanctorum. Within that vast defended hall and the countless interconnected vaults and chambers it contains is stored the chapter's amassed repository of knowledge. Upon the towering shelves of the Sanctum Sanctorum rest tomes, friable scrolls, data crystals, and info plates of forbidden lore recovered by the Grey Knights in innumerable battles. Here may be found the names of prescribed cults and Xenos races doomed to annihilation, as well as the secrets of forging Nemesis Force weaponry. The particulars of the chapter's psychic rites and sacraments, inscribed upon stone tablets, holographic discs, or other media, are sheltered in stasis vaults, and in frozen silvered crypts rests the chapter's genetic heritage. At the very heart of the citadel of Titan lies a star-shaped chamber in which the chapter's unceasing chants and prayers resound. This is the Warp Nexus. It is believed that pentagrammic sigils and the patterns incised within them sheltered the Titan and its fortress monastery during their sojourn in the Warp, and also served as a means of passage between worlds. This artifact chamber, purportedly wrought by Malkador himself, remains jealously guarded in the hope that should the need arise, the warp nexus might once again hastily provide refuge for all the denizens of the Titan. Deep within the chambers of purity, locked in the hall where the very sarcophagus of Malcador is said to be kept, lies a plain wooden casket sealed with a ring of gold. Within that casket rests an instruction written upon ancient vellum, known only as the Terminus Decree. The artifact is not entered in the libraries of the Imperium, for it is kept secret from all save the Supreme Grand Magister of the Grey Knights. Only the Supreme Grand Magister knows how to open the casket, and he shall do so only when all hope for the future of mankind has been lost. The Terminus Decree is the ultimate sanction of the Grey Knights, a secret that could bring the Imperium to its knees or save it in its darkest hour. The precise nature of the document is unknown, for none have ever opened it, and the sole key to its contents is the golden seal upon the casket. It is whispered that the seal is an exact replica of another seal that exists in but one sacred place among all the scattered worlds of the Imperium, upon the Emperor's golden throne. And though the Grey Knights are recorded in Imperial annals as a chapter of the Second Founding, they do not follow the Codex Astartes, the great work whose edicts formed the basis of most Space Marine brotherhoods. Instead, the secretive Grey Knights adhere to dogmas and maintain a structure that they hold were written for them by Malcador himself. Doctrines born of the unique requirements of their war against the Dark Gods. The Grey Knights number roughly 1,000 battle brothers. This figure excludes officers and specialists. As with all other chapters of the Astartes, they maintain a modest host of mortal household servants and mindless servitors who serve the chapter. The Grey Knights also keep a considerable cadre of mortal psychers, occultists, and other scholarly men and women whose soft whispers, measured footsteps, or distant liturgies are ever present in the candlelit corridors. Hardened against any half-truth they perceive, and frequently purging minds as a precaution, these servants help preserve the sanctity of the Titan citadel, warding it against demonic incursion. Among many other duties, the main body of the Grey Knights' battle brothers is organized into 8 great brotherhoods. Each brotherhood comprises roughly 100 Grey Knights under the joint leadership of a Grand Magister and a brother captain. The brotherhoods of the Grey Knights stand at the vanguard of the endless war of annihilation, exterminating demons wherever they appear in their unholy guise. The chapter contains no reserve or specialist companies, for the grim and exhausting duty before them means that every brotherhood requires vast resources to cleanse any battlefield of the blasphemous spawn of the warp. As noted above, each brotherhood is led by a Grand Master, each of whom is the spiritual successor to the chapter's 8 founders. The Grand Master is charged with organizing the interminable war against the immortal denizens of the warp, employing any means he deems necessary. He likewise maintains the Brotherhood's numerous alliances, whether with other branches of the chapter, with imperial organizations that may be allied to the Grey Knights, or with others with whom the chapter holds particularly secret relations. Consulting with the prognosticars and heeding their counsel, the Grand Master determines where his warriors are most needed, for his decisions save or doom billions of lives. Although hundreds, if not thousands, of foes may fall to one of his hundreds of Grey Knights, the Grand Master's Brotherhood cannot be everywhere at once, and thus not all worlds can be spared from the devouring hand of chaos. To avoid wasting time and the lives of his warriors, the Grand Master is sometimes forced to mercilessly destroy worlds that can no longer be saved with cyclonic torpedoes, subjecting them to the decree of exterminatus. The Grand Master is not only a strategist, but also an exemplar of martial might. His presence on the battlefield is an indication of the danger posed by the enemy the Brotherhood must face. He leads his knights into the most perilous engagements, while in lesser battles, command of the Brotherhood falls to an experienced Brother Captain. The Brother Captain holds operational authority over the Brotherhood. It is he who determines how the Grand Master's strategic design will be executed. His place on the field is in the very heart of battle, standing shoulder to shoulder with his brothers, from the armoured fingertips of his gauntlets erupting blazing psychic fire. Each Brother Captain has honed his psychic abilities to such a degree that he can maintain psychic contact with every one of his warriors, even in the thickest of fighting, precisely and subtly adapting his tactics and battle formations. This enables him to respond to emerging threats far more swiftly than many other Imperial commanders. Also incorporated into the Brotherhood's command are usually the champion of the Brotherhood, the ancients, and sometimes other officers. The champion of the Brotherhood is the exemplar of divine martial skill to which all Grey Knights aspire. Clad in armour forged by master smiths and bearing the chapter's signature sword that echoes its emblem, the champion guards his captain with unparalleled skill and is prepared to die in his commander's stead. Meanwhile, the ancient of the Brotherhood serves as a conduit of the Emperor's will, inspiring his brethren to battle. He is entrusted with one of the Brotherhood's sacred standards, taken from the Hall of Champions on Titan, which he bears into battle with solemn reverence. Under the banner's holy protection, the morale of his brethren strengthens, and the ancient proclaims the names and deeds inscribed upon the standard in the darkest moments of the conflict, spurring the other Grey Knights to yet greater feats. The remaining warriors of the Brotherhood are organized into squads of 10, each led by an experienced veteran who bears the title Justikar. Each squad possesses considerable tactical flexibility and often deploys on missions as 2 independent detachments. Nevertheless, Grey Knight squads remain supremely effective and combat-capable, allowing the commanders of the Brotherhood to confront the myriad threats with the greatest possible success. Each Grey Knight is schooled in the use of diverse and esoteric weaponry, for their equipment is held exclusively by this chapter. In every mission, squads operate with differing tactical loadouts and perform distinct strategic tasks. The allocation of squads by type in any given situation is determined by the Grand Master and the Brotherhood's Brother Captain. It has long been proven, however, that the most effective combination is Terminators and Strike squads, supported by Interceptors and Purifier squads. Because the Grey Knights so often fight in the most hellish battles amid maddened landscapes, where warp fire rages through the air and the cries and whispers of demons resound, they must pay especial heed to the strengthening of their psychic bonds. By performing mystical rites and intoning ritual canticles in the heat of battle, the warriors temper their souls and hone their blades. Justikars, who command each unit, refine the empirical talents of their warriors in peacetime and ensure the focusing of their power during combat. Every battle brother learns not only to fight with all manner of specialized weapons, armor, and other war gear, but also studies the rites pertinent to every tactical situation in which his squad might find itself. And whereas in other chapters Terminator armor is a rare and precious resource, available only to an elite, for the Grey Knights it is merely another instrument by which they discharge their vital duty, and they possess sufficient suits of that armor to equip their entire chapter, should they so desire. As a chapter, the Grey Knights are governed by the so-called Chapter Council, composed of the Lord Chapter, also known as the Supreme Grand Master, and the 8 Great Magisters of the Brotherhoods. Each member of the Council holds an equal vote, yet the final decision nonetheless remains with the Lord Chapter. Each Great Magister also presides over one of the institutions, for example, the Armory Chamber or the Librarium, for each institute is nominally considered part of his brotherhood. And although a Magister dispatches members of his brotherhood to perform various duties alongside other Grey Knights, his authority over those specialists is largely ceremonial, for in time they find their own modes of combat and tactics, attach themselves to another brotherhood, and remain only nominally under the command of their Great Magister. These Grey Knights perform many of the same specialized functions as their Astartes counterparts from more orthodox chapters. Librarians, who possess far stronger and far more varied psychic gifts than most other Grey Knights, frequently aid in honing the abilities of their battle brothers. The chapter's Tech Marines are likewise instructed by the Tech Priests of Mars, and upon returning to the Titan, they maintain the chapter's vehicles and assist in the fabrication of psychically augmented equipment for the warriors to wield. Apothecaries oversee the creation of new Grey Knights through clandestine gene implantation. They are also charged with healing the most horrific wounds of their brethren and the warp-borne contagions that afflict them, employing medical apparatus and surgical rites. These warriors are often sent to fight alongside one of the Grey Knights' brotherhoods, sometimes for the remainder of their lives, and in certain instances they may even be granted command and lead strike squads independently during missions. Such specialists are initiated into the traditions, rites and ceremonies of their new brotherhood, as all its warriors are, and contribute to the effective pursuit and annihilation of demonic entities. And though these knights are attached to a particular brotherhood, nominally they remain subject to another Great Magister. Thus, the chapter's Armory Chamber traditionally answers to the Great Magister of the First Brotherhood, and he bears full responsibility for the duties of the chapter's Tech Marines. It is from the Chamber of Trials that the company of gatherers is dispatched across the galaxy in search of new recruits. The gatherers are Grey Knights whose advanced age or maiming no longer permit them to perform the chapter's primary duties, yet whose keen minds are able to sift out the most suitable aspirants. From the throng of potential candidates they discover, the gatherers select only those whose potential is most apparent. The remit of the gatherers is, in practice, almost without limit. Thus, during their long wanderings, they scour a multitude of likely sources for potential recruits. Barbarian worlds ignorant of the Imperium, black ships that gather the tithe of psychers, civilized worlds with vast populations where they operate through emissaries unaware of the Grey Knights, and even the recruiting worlds of other chapters of the Space Marines, commonly without the knowledge of those chapters' masters. After finding a sufficient number of suitable candidates, the gatherers return to Titan, to the Chamber of Trials, the place that will become a home for the novices of the chapter, and where their training will begin. Yet even those whose talent has been marked by the gatherers will be culled if their resilience proves insufficient. The knowledge and gene seed that each Grey Knight receives, known as the Emperor's Gift, are far too precious to be squandered in vain. It is a great fortune if 1 in 1,000 recruits survives the first rite of initiation, the pilgrimage across the spectral planes. Even more will perish during the second rite, in which the recruits must pass through dark, glyph-strewn caverns. Those who survive the initial selection still face many trials, and only a few postulants endure the physical and psychic ordeals required to be deemed worthy of receiving the Emperor's Gift and of becoming a Grey Knight. Once the trials are complete, the apothecaries, aided by medicae servitors, begin to implant the unique organs of the Grey Knights into the postulants, locking the recruits away on the lowest levels of the chamber of trials. Upon the completion of these agonizing procedures, the postulant is inducted as a neophyte, and his true instruction begins. Unlike the recruits of most chapters, Grey Knight neophytes learn through combat, for they must undergo long years of martial and psychic training before they may stand face to face with the deadliest foes of the Sons of Titan. A neophyte's martial skills are honed by the Brotherhood's champions and his psychic powers by the librarians. The neophyte must also undergo the rites of alienation, which harden his heart against the lies and temptations of demons. If he passes these final trials, the neophyte will be elevated to the rank of knight and will take his place in the fight against chaos, entering one of the chapter's brotherhoods. The first brotherhood, the Sword-Bearers. The Grand Master of the First Brotherhood, Varden Kai, bears the title Lord of the Armory and nominally commands all Tech Marines who maintain and operate the Grey Knight's war machines. On deployment, the First Brotherhood deals crushing blows to its enemies by virtue of the large number of Land Raiders, Stormhawk interceptors, and the Storm Talon and Storm Raven gunships at its disposal. The Sword-Bearers are frequently called upon when the Grey Knights require armoured vehicles or air support, for most of the chapter's finest pilots serve among their ranks. Many of the chapter's Tech Marines fight alongside the First Brotherhood even after completing their training, executing their duties upon the field of battle under the command of that same Great Magister who oversees their broader obligations to keep the chapter's sacred war machines and the Battle Brothers' equipment in proper condition. The remaining Battle Brothers of the Sword-Bearers are likewise trained to fight in unison with these consecrated war machines, smashing through enemy ranks so that salvos of rockets may rend asunder the towering greater demons when they manifest from the warp onto the battlefield. The Second Brotherhood, the Blades of Victory, has earned a deserved reputation as a brotherhood capable of rapid deployment and of striking with swift ferocity even by Grey Knights' standards. The Brotherhood fields great numbers of interceptor squads and assault teams, employing mass teleportation tactics to outpace their foes. The Blades are often at the vanguard of combined Brotherhood offensives, bursting onto the field to establish a lodgment and to pave the way for the heavier forces that will follow. Because the Great Magister of the Second Brotherhood, Vorth Mordrak, also serves as Admiral of the Chapter Fleet, he surpasses all others in the arts of devising maneuvers and formations, ensuring the rapid deployment of the Grey Knights across a theatre of operations. Thanks to the prognosticar's predictions, which furnish vital tactical intelligence, the strike cruisers and battle barges of the Grey Knights, under the control of the Second Brotherhood, are often able to deliver forces to the battlefield before the enemy has completed its arrival at the clash. The Third Brotherhood, the Wardmakers, have always occupied a place of honour within the chapter. By legend, this was the Brotherhood of Ianius himself, the first supreme Great Magister. And throughout the long history of the Grey Knights, it has nurtured many of the chapter's greatest heroes. For example, the current supreme Great Magister of the Grey Knights, Kaldor Drago, was once a brother captain, and thereafter the Great Magister of the Third. The Great Magister of this brotherhood, Uldric Voldus, simultaneously serves as Keeper of the Librarium, an office known for its peril and perhaps even for its curse. Voldus's predecessor, Doriam Narathem, was slain by Macachan only months after assuming the post, the deed of the Lord of Change, who sought to ensnare Arvan Stern, the brother captain of the Third Brotherhood. Because the great magister of this brotherhood exercises authority over the libraria of the entire chapter, his influence is felt in every brotherhood. As with the first brotherhood, many librarians fight alongside the third brotherhood in battle, and thanks to their guidance, the Wardmakers possess a greater psychic flexibility, for their librarians have been initiated into many of the chapter's most subtle and least known rituals. The Brotherhood is likewise able to adapt its psychic faculties as swiftly as other warriors shift tactical stratagems, thereby adjusting even to the most potent demons to secure triumphant victories for the Grey Knight's forces. By virtue of the breadth of forbidden law they steward, members of the Third were able to banish the most lethal demons, and owing to the Brotherhood's ancient bond with the chapter's librarians, the Wardmakers can boast a far deeper erudition than any other. Between engagements and combat drills, the brothers of the Wardmakers frequently devote themselves to scholarly research. The Brotherhood plunges into tomes of tradition, accumulated in painstaking fragments across millennia. They learn to fashion with their minds psychic spells that repel the enslaving psychic yoke of demons. Many master rites by which they project their own purifying auras. Some have even become adept at isolating heretics from demonic overlords, those who would further corrupt them with foul whispers, rending asunder the unclean bonds that bind them. The succession of great masters has taught their battle brothers that demons can be overcome through broad and varied knowledge, for these entities forever rely upon deceit, lies, and illusion. Yet no battle brother of the Third Brotherhood neglects his martial prowess. Such skills are honed beneath the stern gaze of the Brotherhood's champion. And although every great master holds an equal voice upon the council, and each brotherhood stands equal to the next, with none superior to another, it can nonetheless be stated without doubt that the Third Brotherhood played a pivotal role in the defeat of the forces of chaos in countless dreadful encounters. Had even one of those covert battles been lost, the future of humanity might have been far darker. When a mysterious infection descended upon one of the Imperium's systems, the sage council of the then Great Master Valdar Aurikon helped to discern within it the influence of the daemon Tzeentch. By carefully studying the visions of the prognosticars, the Emperor's Tarot, and ancient prophecies, he unveiled the consequences of the disease and the thread of its fate. All of this revealed the titanic threat it truly was, the plague of madness, which was fated to spread without end. On one occasion, the warriors of the Third Brotherhood confronted demons of all four Chaos Gods during a demonic incursion upon one of the fortress worlds, Cypra Mundi. The Brotherhood met legions of demonic machines and possessed husks that proved to be the remnants of the planet's former populace. The Third Brotherhood prevailed because it possessed extensive knowledge of the various demons. The knights wove a variety of rites directed at the particular species of demon that crawled before them, for no single, even most potent, surge of sanctified psychic energy could slay the full diversity of demonic forms of mind. Yet under the command of the Great Magister, the Third Brotherhood achieved one of its greatest victories. It stood shoulder to shoulder with the Ultramarines on Macragge, and their psychic forces cast back the sorceries of chaos during the Siege of Hera and ensured the successful resurrection of the Primarch of the Ultramarines, Guilliman. Every Grey Knight is a psyker, a bearer of mutation that sets him apart from Space Marines, just as his genetically enhanced body sets him apart from the rest of humanity. But few of the chapter's battle brothers employ that power freely. Even for a Grey Knight, continual wielding of psychic energy would throw open a gateway into the material realm for ravenous demons. Therefore, the librarians train their brothers to focus their psychic gift in concert with other members of their squad. The librarians of the Grey Knights are masters at the use of their powers and among the most skilled psychers in the Imperium. They are capable of employing every manner of spell that the chapter accumulates and keeps deep within the Sanctum Sanctorum in the Liborium Daemonica. It is one of the most protected and guarded places in the Imperium, for here is kept the full corpus of the Grey Knight's knowledge concerning demons. Some of the records were made before the age of the Imperium or were obtained from long-dead Xenos. Other manuscripts are believed to have been compiled by Malcador or even by the Emperor himself and dispatched to Titan. The threat of such knowledge falling into alien hands cannot be underestimated, and so the Librarium Daemonica lies behind 3 adamantium barriers, each several yards thick, warded by enchantments, anointed with sacred oils and adorned with silver seals of purity. Senior librarian keep vigil over each of the 3 massive barriers, watching unceasingly the gates sealed by layers of secret ciphers, spatial displacers, and sorcerous wards. Any seeker of entry to the Librarium Daemonica who does not utter the secret words of password at the appointed ritual moment will be destroyed by the Librarium Wardens without delay. Among the terrible lore contained within are the true names of many of the most loathsome demons and recorded instances of their manifesting. One such is a demon known as Makachen, unpleasantly familiar to the brother captain of the Third Brotherhood, for his fate and that of the demon are inextricably linked. The Fourth Brotherhood, the Prescient Brotherhood. The Fourth Brotherhood is presently commanded by Drystan Crom, and under his leadership are many of the chapter's most potent psychers. Warriors with an instinctive comprehension of the warp that surpasses even that of their brothers from the Third Brotherhood. It is from the Prescient Brotherhood that new prognosticars are most often chosen, but only when members of the Brotherhood have demonstrated particular talents and the Great Magister judges such a brother to be too valuable an asset to risk on the field of battle. Most members of the Prescient Brotherhood frequently possess the ability to sense danger before it materializes, and they exploit this faculty to relentlessly stalk their foes and to devise highly effective ambushes. Such gifts are of paramount importance in battle against demons, entities whose atemporal and unnatural existence allows many of them to manipulate the strands of fate, and against psychically gifted races such as the irksome Eldar. The ability to foresee an enemy's maneuvers likewise augments their martial prowess, and some of the greatest duelists in the history of the chapter were once members of the Fourth Brotherhood, for there are few swordmasters in the galaxy whose skill can outmatch prescience. The Fifth Brotherhood, the Preservers. The stewardship of the chapter's greatest legacy, its gene seed, rests with the Great Magister of the Fifth Brotherhood, Rothwyr Morvans, for it is under his patronage that the apothecaries are trained in their vital duties. Moreover, as keeper of the Sanctum Sanctorum, he bears responsibility for the preservation of myriad knowledge, including unique technological and historical records and artifacts housed therein. The living embodiment of a great portion of this archive are the Grey Knights' dreadnoughts, within whose sarcophagi slumber warriors too grievously maimed to be healed, yet who continue to serve the chapter. To be Great Magister of the Fifth Brotherhood and keeper of these ancients requires profound humility, for many dreadnoughts are the tombs of battle brothers whose combat experience is measured in millennia. By tradition, wounded warriors newly interred within those sarcophagi often fight alongside the Fifth Brotherhood, while the freshly enshrined dreadnoughts learn in combat to master the raw force of their machine forms and spirits. where the preservers fight, their strategies frequently center upon the employment of these venerable ancients. The earth trembles beneath the thunderous strides of adamantium dreadnought feet when the fury of these immortal war machines is unleashed mercilessly upon those who stand before them. The Sixth Brotherhood, the Rapiers. Grey Knights do not suffer needless losses or the waste of manpower, and thus, in the frequent deliberations of the Council, it falls to the Magister of the Sixth Brotherhood, Cadden Varn, to train the most elite and lethal strike forces and to devise many of the operations. Those who bear the title High Seneschal are exacting instructors, and their devotion to perfection and efficiency is reflected in the warriors of their brotherhood. The Rapiers are masters at creating strategically astute special strike forces capable of inflicting as much damage as far larger armies. Rather than employing devastating orbital bombardments and mass teleportation, the Rapiers rely upon surgical strikes, placing their trust in the training and experience of small squads of specialists to execute their missions. Where large numbers of live troops are required, the Grand Master or his brother captain will use mindless servitors to bind the enemy in combat, allowing the Grey Knights to concentrate on high-priority targets. Records held solely within the Titan Citadel even reveal the artful yet ruthless inclusion of other unsuspecting Imperial forces in some of the Rapier's most brilliantly executed strikes. Such losses are normally lauded as noble sacrifice, although most Imperial officials and generals have no inkling of the Grey Knights, believing their soldiers fell fighting an unknown foe. The Seventh Brotherhood, the Exactors. As noted above, the Inquisition and the Grey Knights were founded at roughly the same time, and although they were created to operate independently of one another, many of the two organizations' objectives broadly coincide. The Exactors have a long history of great victories, one upon the foundation of intelligence provided by the Ordo Malleus, sometimes with the assistance of members of that branch of the Almighty Inquisition. As a result, many respected inquisitors can call upon them for aid, and it is usually through Grandmaster Coven Leorak, who bears the title Representative to the Inquisition, that liaison between the chapter and the Inquisition is effected. In return, members of the Seventh Brotherhood expect the Inquisition to maintain vigilant oversight across the Imperium and to furnish them with supporting forces whenever and wherever they request them. The Seventh Brotherhood also sometimes fights alongside Imperial forces requisitioned by the Inquisition, employing squads of Astra Militarum forces to hold key positions on the field of battle or Inquisition acolytes to suppress demonic uprisings. Those brave warriors who survive missions with the Exactors and somehow evade the subsequent purges of the Ordo Malleus continue to serve the chapter as servitors or as household serfs with purged minds, so long as their biological components retain integrity. The Eighth Brotherhood, the Silver Blades. When a newly minted battle brother enters the ranks of the Grey Knights, he is generally isolated within the Eighth Brotherhood. Thereafter, he may find a place in one of the other brotherhoods according to his natural talents and the favour of the Grand Masters, or he may elect to remain with the Silver Blades. Those who stay dedicate themselves to perpetual training, repeatedly undergoing rites of initiation in the relentless pursuit of martial perfection. Under the leadership of Knight Commander of Recruits Aidan Perdron, the warriors of the Eighth Brotherhood fight in flexible formations, swiftly altering their tactics both during combat and between engagements. They employ any available weapon and show no fixed preference for any single strategy or maneuver, choosing instead to adapt their methods constantly. Each silver blade strives to master with artful skill every weapon at his disposal, to know the strength of every strike group and the weakness of every foe. It is to the Grand Magister of the Eighth Brotherhood that the members of the Company of Gatherers and their Magister make their reports. Likewise, after their missions, the Silver Blades always seek survivors who appear unusually resolute and free from corruption. Such individuals regularly draw the attention of the Inquisition, and debates over the survivors' futures therefore remain intensely fraught. Apart from the 8 Brotherhoods, the Grey Knights maintain 2 further combat wings. Answering directly to the Chapter Council, the members of these independent detachments accompany the Brotherhood warriors at the request of their Grand Magisters. The Purifiers rarely number more than 50 and constitute a closed brotherhood with its own traditions, whose spiritually pure warriors are led by the Knights of the Flame, while the Paladins form the combat elite of the chapter, a company of roughly 100 or so of the most skilled warriors, from whose ranks the most venerated of the Grey Knights is chosen. The Chambers of Purity are thought to be the oldest hall of the Citadel of Titan. The chapter's legends maintain that a great evil is buried among the roots of Mount Anarch, the great summit, at the foot of which stands the fortress monastery of the Grey Knights. Those Grey Knights, who had sufficient cause to approach the outer gates of the Chambers of Purity, felt strange reverberations, intimations of some vast space beyond them. Even the Grand Magisters do not know the whole truth. Many dreadful rumours course through the wastes and halls of Titan, and many are inclined to believe them, if only because of the grim truths they have seen in battle. Yet, despite this, no one can say with certainty what lies hidden there. For millennia, this secrecy has been wrapped in numerous conjectures. Some hold that the evil imprisoned on Titan lies there, and that for this reason the moon was chosen as the Grey Knights' homeworld. Others suggest it was already there, and that the Emperor personally placed it there, something he did not or could not destroy. Still others speak of some failure in the warp nexus, that during Titan's temporal phase in the warp, something overcame Malkador's guardians and slipped into the very heart of Titan. It is thought that only the Iron Grimoire can reveal the whole truth. This tome, bound in shrieking warp metal, is rumoured to liken the founding of Titan to the building of a tomb, and the Chambers of Purity to the keystone of that tomb. Thus, the chambers are not so much a prison as they are the lock and the key to that prison. Only the Supreme Grand Magister is permitted to read the Iron Grimoire, and of all the other Grey Knights only the Purifiers truly know what they guard. Thus, when the Titans rock, shudders, and the Purifiers seal the approaches to their chambers, the chapter collectively holds its breath until the tremors subside. Since the advent of the Great Rift, the quivering of the Titan's innards has grown more frequent and more violent. The chapter's numerologists reported a disquieting synergy in the frequencies of the tremors, and other seers spoke in dread of the Great Awakening, the opening of the eye. This evil, perhaps the greatest upon the Titan, is by no means the only thing housed within the Chambers of Purity. Within fortified dungeons, stasis chambers, and refractive prisons lie demonic relics. These are profane objects deemed too hazardous to be studied or exhibited as trophies in the Hall of Champions. Yet they are also too perilous to be destroyed, for doing so would allow the malignant demons imprisoned within to return to the warp, where they would recover and resume their machinations. Here may be found treatises, catalogues, instructions, ravings, chronicles, and all manner of tomes, scrolls and tablets, pages, bindings and inks, fashioned from 1,000 different substances. Few were offered willingly to the making of these horrifying writings. There are also the bones of fallen saints and of prophets driven mad, Zeno's tyrants possessed by chaos. Warp-corrupted, held in gravitic suspension, Zeno's technologies and mechanical idols from the Dark Ages languish in fetters, while the minds trapped within them rage or repeat unheard entreaties of their innocence. Blades, hooks, maces, firearms of grotesque proportions, and countless other life-taking instruments are kept in gilded caskets. This demonic armament, having tasted blood and souls, ranks among the chamber's most dangerous denizens. Yet its will is held in a slumber by the operation of ancient technologies and by the warden's potent radiance. The Purifiers are an organization apart from the other Grey Knights, set at a distance from their battle brothers by nature and by tradition. They guard the chambers of purity against the incursion of mortal and immortal alike, ensuring that neither person nor thing may breach their domains to reach the roots of the mountains beyond. Only the great masters of the Brotherhoods and the Chapter Lord are admitted to their domains without invitation, and none other, for they possess the authority and the resolve to annihilate any who are not permitted entry. And when some have nevertheless dared to break into so jealously guarded a place, they have never returned. The fate of those madmen remains unknown and unquestioned. Because the Purifiers embody the sanctity of Chapter Aims, there is no training regimen nor codified process by which a Grey Knight may be raised into their severe and silent ranks. Membership of the Purifiers' Order is not granted for skill, for valour, or for the tally of grim deeds. A Grey Knight may serve with impeccable distinction for the entirety of his functionally immortal life, and never receive this particular honour. Instead, the Purifiers recruit only those Grey Knights whose souls are judged utterly incorruptible, even by the already severe standards of the chapter. The selection is so painstaking, and the honour so rarely bestowed, that the Purifiers seldom number more than a few dozen. Whether by some quirk of mystical fate or some other cause, their strength rarely falls so low that the brethren cannot fulfill their obligations. Thus, the commanders of the Purifiers have never contemplated loosening the restrictions on induction, for fear of imperiling the sanctity of their brethren. Yet the Purifiers do not serve solely as wardens of demonic artifacts. In rare cases, the commander of the formation will accede to a petition from one of the Grand Masters to provide a portion of his warriors for that Grand Master's missions. Even then, only one member of the council at a time may advance such a request. Understanding the gravity of the Purifier's duty, even without knowing its true nature, the Grand Masters solicit their aid only under the most desperate of circumstances. When the Purifiers take the field, they frequently act as the chapter's vanguard, deploying into theatres of war that seethe and boil with legions of demons. The Purifier's unstained spirit is not merely their distinguishing mark, but their greatest weapon. Like the light said to surround the greatest saints of the Imperium, a radiant halo is visible above the heads of these pure-souled warriors. Combined with the fearsome psychic might of the Grey Knight, the inviolability of mind is transmuted into a purifying azure flame that consumes the bodies and souls of the unworthy. Little withstands the power of that glorious fire. A demon's cold malice is hurled back upon itself. The fear of a chaos-corrupted soldier erupts into flame, and the spite of predatory Xenos devours them from within. None but the Purifiers pass through that blaze unscathed, and their armour dazzles as they lay low their charred foes. Garen Crow, champion of the Purifiers, is at once its head and its soul. By any measure of the Grey Knight, he is an immaculate spirit, so impervious to chaos machinations that he is deemed invulnerable to them. It is therefore to him that one of the most abhorrent trophies has been entrusted, the Black Blade of Antwer. This black blade is a demonic weapon of extraordinary power. The entity trapped within it beguiled the minds of its previous bearers, unleashing a bloody war across entire sectors by means of thralls and armies subjugated to its will. And though the entity would vanish for centuries, fleeing with its slave master into the warp, the Grey Knights at last slew the sword-bearer and seized the loathsome weapon. Yet, alas, the Blade of Antwer proved so potent that no secret art of the Grey Knights could destroy it. Its corrupting potential was deemed too great even for confinement within the chambers of purity in perpetuity, for all feared that its insistent whispering might debauch some soul on the Titan or beyond. It was resolved that the surest prison would be the constant grasp of a champion. He passed from one such incarnation of sanctity to another, and now found himself in the iron grip of Garen Crow. The blade ceaselessly whispers, cajoles and screams, promising unexampled power or threatening vile humiliations. At times, the blade even offers aid when the entity imprisoned within it is confronted by one of its demonic rivals, and thus Garen Crow must ever be on his guard. When he is not surrounded by mortal demonic foes drawn under the blade's sway, the Castellan is compelled to wage a psychic war against it. He lends not an ear to a single one of its lies and yields not to its temptations. Until death itself, he is its ward, not its thrall. Among rows of iron-bound basalt pillars that rise to the vaulted arches high above the central hall of champions, the banners and trophies of the Grey Knights hang. Dark statues gaze down, their stern faces lit by burning candles. Together with its ancillary altars and council chambers, this hall forms the battle and spiritual heart of the chapter. The vast central chamber of the citadel of the Titan is known as the Hall of Champions, though in truth the name embraces a whole series of rooms, passageways and sanctuaries that radiate from the central hall. Rare feasts are held here when more than a handful of Grey Knights assemble upon the Titan. Often this occurs after hard-won victory, when the Battle Brothers are within the fortress monastery to recover their strength and re-equip themselves before the next vision of destiny summons them back to war. Rows of statues serve the conduct of ceremonies, and the oaths spoken here by the brothers of the chapter are sometimes addressed to them directly. These stone warriors depict the ancestors of the Grey Knights, heroes granted immortality to inspire those who take the field after them. The hall is also the place where living heroes are honoured. Here, inductions into the Grey Knights take place within the so-called circles of renunciation, inlaid with silver into the very floor. Trophies taken from the vanquished hang upon iron hooks and chains, shattered weapons, fragments of flame-scarred armour, or strange objects such as 13 twisted iron masks of demonic sorcerers. And although the Grey Knights' primary concern is the demonic threat, they also wage countless battles against Xenos, mutants, and heretics, and many of the trophies in the hall stand testament to those victories. Sacred standards and banners hanging in the Hall of Champions represent each brotherhood and the Grey Knights chapter as a whole. Thus, they honour the purging of worlds from unholy evil. Few in the Imperium know of their deeds, and fewer still record them. Each brotherhood keeps numerous standards in the Hall of Champions, and here are also displayed the personal banners and relics of fallen heroes. It is against the stirring backdrop of countless trophies that the chaplains instruct their brotherhoods in prayer during the greatest assemblies in the Hall of Champions and also before battle. The chaplains are the spiritual leaders of the Grey Knights. They uphold many of the chapter's traditions and instill in neophytes the strict rules they must know before their final initiation into the chapter's brotherhood, and they mercilessly punish those they deem to be wavering in their focus. Their fiery sermons, shouted through the din of battle or delivered with grim solemnity in the Hall of Champions, speak of the price of failure and collapse, psychically reinforcing the heavy obligations imposed upon their chapter by the Emperor. The Hall of Champions is also the residence of the Paladins, the greatest warriors of the Grey Knights. Many statues here depict former members of the Paladin Brotherhood. Paladins are the exemplars of the chapter's martial valor. If a Grey Knight wishes to prove himself worthy of a place among such celebrated warriors, bravery and skill alone are insufficient. A candidate must complete 8 trials to affirm his character and his intentions. Each is more arduous and more deadly than the last, but the culmination of these trials is the tracking down and banishment of one of the 666 most powerful demons that have returned to the material world. Many battle brothers have died on these crusades, for refusal to undertake them would bring heavy dishonor. Another testament to the status of the Paladins is that a Grey Knight who wishes to join them is prepared to risk depriving the chapter of his own skills in order to gain the opportunity to serve it at a higher level. Paladins rarely fight as a single mass. When the Supreme Grand Master, or one of the members of the Council in his stead, calls the Paladins to battle, desiring the finest representatives of the chapter to stand upon the field, they are usually dispatched in small numbers to provide support to the forces of various brotherhoods. Truly selfless, yet possessing the power to annihilate the vilest of creatures, Paladins do not hesitate to hurl themselves into battle against towering demon lords or the murderous hordes of warp spawn they lead. Also, within the Halls of Champions, one of the most venerated Grey Knights is chosen, the Paladin Ancient. In his unflinching hand, he bears one of the chapter's greatest standards, that which displays the Grey Knight's most glorious victories over the demons. His duty is far more personal than that of many others, for he witnessed many of those great triumphs and is as inspiring a figure as the banner he carries into battle. The millennia-spanning history of the Grey Knights is woven from a web of ancient traditions and the oaths of entire brotherhoods and the private vows of individual knights. These sacred customs and doctrines are reflected in the weapons they wield, the armor they don, and the heraldry they display proudly before their foes. The armor of every Grey Knight is an ancient relic taken from the chapter's armories, and more often than not, it has been worn by many warriors before him. At times, the names or deeds of the fallen are engraved upon the plates of a suit, serving as a memorial to their glory. More commonly, however, the masterful engravings consist of passages from the Liber Daemonica, canticles of absolution, or the words of any one of the countless sacred treatises. The chapter emblem, a book pierced by a blade through its spine, always adorns the left pauldron of every knight, and it likewise graces the armoured flanks of their battle tanks, warships, and even their strike cruisers. Beyond this, their unpainted ceramite-coloured armour presents a far more esoteric and individual appearance than the heraldry of other Space Marine chapters. In the Grey Knight's traditional accents of red, black and white, the chapter's warriors display their personal heraldry. Their armour is often further embellished with seals of sacred wax, bearing oaths of purification or sanctity. scrolls sealed within leather cases, tomes of forbidden knowledge, and fetishes fashioned from revered forebears employed in clandestine rites are used in concert with the most advanced technologies the Imperium can forge. The Chapter Brothers also display their unique heraldry upon their oath shields. A simple design denotes their deed, though the meaning of these arcane symbols is hidden from outsiders. As a Grey Knight rises through the ranks, he will add markings to his shield that reflect his ever higher station. For many Grey Knights, that heraldic shield upon their armour is the sole record of their glorious deeds. Though the citizens of the Imperium know not their faces, they live because of their sacrifice. The Grey Knights are the Emperor's weapon, forged to contend with nightmares. And when the next whisper of chaos rends the fabric of reality, be assured, the blade is already poised and deliverance is at hand.